Millionaire mother hadn't walked for 20 years until the new Black Maid did the impossible. For 20 years the Whitmore estate had been filled with wealth, glittering chandeliers, and the kind of silence that pressed down like a weight. Eleanor Whitmore, once the fiery matriarch of the family, had been confined to a wheelchair after a sudden and brutal illness robbed her of movement in her legs. It had struck without warning. One evening she was dancing at a gala in a golden gown, and by morning her body betrayed her. Doctors came and went, experts from New York, London, even Geneva, each with polished shoes and practiced smiles. But their verdict never changed. She would never walk again. At first, Eleanor fought. She demanded therapies, diets, even experimental procedures. But year after year, hope drained from her like water through cupped hands. She began to retreat into herself. A proud woman shrinking into a fragile figure dressed in silk robes, wheeled from window to window. Her hair, once styled meticulously, now often hung loosely. The world had given her riches beyond imagination, but stripped her of the one thing she cherished most, independence. Her son Daniel grew used to her condition. He cared for her in his way, hiring the best nurses, making sure she had everything she needed. But he stopped believing she could ever change. To him and to everyone else, the chair was permanent. A throne and a prison rolled into one. Then came Grace. Grace was not like the others. A Black woman in her mid-30s, she carried herself with a quiet dignity. She was not intimidated by the grand estate or the Whitmore name. On her first day, when Eleanor snapped at her for rearranging books on a shelf, Grace did not bow her head or apologize endlessly like the others had. Instead, she calmly replied, "I only moved them so you could reach them easier, ma'am." That small act was the first crack in Eleanor's hardened shell. Over the weeks, Grace noticed things others overlooked. The way Eleanor's hands trembled when she reached for a cup. How her eyes lingered on photographs of her younger self, dancing, standing tall, laughing. How her voice tightened whenever someone wheeled her past the ballroom she hadn't entered in decades. Grace listened, and in listening she learned that Eleanor's wounds were deeper than her legs. One evening, when the house was hushed and only the ticking of the grandfather clock filled the hall, Grace found Eleanor weeping quietly in her room. The old woman's hands clutched her blanket as if holding herself together. "Do you know what it's like?" Eleanor whispered. "To feel like you're already buried while still breathing. They look at me and see a relic. My son, he doesn't even believe I can try anymore." Grace's heart clenched. She knelt beside the chair, her voice steady but soft. "You're not a relic. You're alive. And as long as you're alive, your body hasn't forgotten what it once did. We just have to remind it." Eleanor gave a bitter laugh. "Remind it? I haven't walked in 20 years. You think your hands can do what medicine couldn't?" Grace didn't flinch. "Not my hands. Your will." It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood. Grace started gently, stretching Eleanor's legs, massaging muscles that had long been neglected, coaxing small movements from her stiff joints. Eleanor protested at first, snapping in frustration when the pain surged or when her limbs felt like stone. "Stop this nonsense," she would cry, gripping the arms of her chair until her knuckles whitened. But Grace never stopped. She stayed calm, steady, and persistent. Day after day, she returned. She spoke to Eleanor not as a patient, not as a burden, but as a woman with fight left in her. She told her stories from her own life, of struggle, of resilience, of how she had been underestimated too many times. "People only see what they want to see," Grace said once, rubbing Eleanor's calves with firm strokes. "But that doesn't define what you are capable of. Only you do." Slowly, Eleanor began to respond. The first time her toes twitched, she gasped as though a ghost had brushed past her. The first time she lifted her foot an inch, tears spilled down her cheeks. "I thought it was gone forever," she whispered, trembling. Grace smiled, her hands steadying the old woman's fragile leg. "It was never gone. It was waiting." The sessions grew longer, harder. Eleanor sweated, cursed, even sobbed during the exercises. Grace pushed her, but never cruelly. Always with patience, always with unwavering belief. Every night, Eleanor went to bed aching, but with a flicker of something she hadn't felt in 2 decades. Hope. Still, she kept it secret. She told no one. Not Daniel, not the staff. Part of her feared disappointment if it all ended in failure. Another part wanted to keep this fragile, miraculous bond with Grace untouched by doubt. But change could not remain hidden forever. One stormy evening, after weeks of grueling effort, Eleanor clutched Grace's hands tighter than ever. Her chest heaved, her legs shook violently under her weight, and sweat rolled down her temples. Grace's voice was low but firm. "One more step. Just one more, Eleanor. You can do this." And for the first time in 20 years, Eleanor's body answered. She pushed herself upright, her knees wobbling, her feet planting firmly on the carpet. Her heart thundered, her arms trembled. Grace steadied her, eyes shining with fierce pride. Eleanor gasped, disbelief and joy mingling in her tears. "I am standing." Grace nodded, her own throat tight. "Yes, and soon you'll dance again." Tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks, and she let out a trembling laugh that sounded like it belonged to the younger woman she used to be. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "I thought my body had forgotten." Grace's own eyes shimmered, though her voice stayed strong. "Your body never forgot. It just needed you to believe again." Eleanor's knees wobbled, and for a moment, she nearly collapsed back into the chair. But Grace caught her, steady and unyielding. The old woman's grip dug into Grace's hand, refusing to let go. Then Eleanor's lips curved into a smile so wide it startled even her. "You said I would dance again," she whispered, her voice breaking into something both fragile and fierce. "Then let's not wait another day." Grace blinked, taken aback. "Eleanor, you're exhausted. Your muscles aren't ready for it," but the old woman's hand squeezed hers tighter, silencing her. "If I fall, I fall," Eleanor said, her voice trembling, but steady with resolve. "But if I don't try now, I'll never know what it feels like to live again." Grace hesitated, then nodded. She shifted her weight, guiding Eleanor into a slow turn. The old woman's feet dragged at first, clumsy and heavy, but Grace moved with her, every step measured, every hold firm. Eleanor's satin nightgown swayed lightly as she shuffled forward, her slippers whispering against the floor. The air seemed to hum around them, and then it happened. One step flowed into another. Eleanor found rhythm where she thought only stone remained. She leaned on Grace, yes, but her legs carried her, trembling and alive. Together, they began to sway. An awkward shuffle at first, then a fragile dance. A soft laugh escaped Eleanor's lips. "I remember this feeling." "Oh, Grace, I remember." Grace smiled through the sting in her eyes. "Then don't let it go." They circled the room, the lamp casting golden light over them, the old woman's white hair glowing like a crown. With each movement, Eleanor seemed to shed years of grief, her spirit flooding back into her frail frame. For 20 years she had been a prisoner, and now she was free, even if only for this moment. The door creaked open. Neither of them noticed at first, but Daniel Whitmore, Eleanor's son, stood frozen in the doorway. He had come to check on his mother after hearing faint noises upstairs. What he saw stopped him cold. His mother, his fragile, broken mother, was standing. Not just standing, dancing. Her hand clutched tightly to the Black Maid's, as if it were the only lifeline she had in the world. Eleanor's face was radiant, more alive than he had seen it in decades. Grace, her posture strong, guided her with unshakable steadiness, her expression filled with a rare kind of devotion. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He had seen specialists, paid fortunes, begged science for miracles, but none of them had ever given him this sight. His mother smiling, laughing, her body moving to a rhythm of life again. "Mother," he whispered, his voice cracking. Eleanor turned her head toward the doorway. For a split second, she faltered, fear flickering in her eyes, as if Daniel's gaze might drag her back into the chair. But then, Grace's hand tightened reassuringly around hers, grounding her. Eleanor straightened her back, her trembling legs steadying just enough. She held her chin high, tears still glistening on her cheeks. "Daniel," she said, breathless, "I told you once that I was already buried while still alive. Look at me now. I am living again." His eyes blurred with tears, his chest heaving with disbelief and awe. "Mother, how is this possible?" Grace started to speak, but Eleanor cut her off, her voice firm despite her shaking body, because she refused to let me rot. She saw me when no one else did. She believed when even I could not, and I will not let her go. The words carried a weight that silenced the room. Danielle's gaze shifted between the two women, the powerful figure his mother had once been, reborn in this fragile body, and the maid who had done what doctors and money could not. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.